Depending on whom you ask, Gehenna will soon befall the kindred, or it's happening right now, or it's happened already, and vampires are just play acting in the crumbling ruins of their unlives, while the world comes apart at the seams. While some deride the notion of Gehenna as an invention for duping the guileless and feverish millenarianism, has gripped many kindred with the belief that these are indeed the final nights, one way or another. Blood cults and heresies spring up from the shadows in ever-growing numbers. The creeds of these new blood cults come in a dizzying variety of hatreds, anxieties, and hungers. The most successful spread their black wings from one city to the next, forming something like a cohesive doctrine, even as feuding kindreds splinter off new schisms and heresies. Charting out the spread of such subversive elements requires an agile mind to keep track of the shifting tapestry, not to mention a strong stomach, even by vampire standards. All too many Gehenna cults delve into stomach-churning practices. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and another episode of Metaplot Monday, where we are continuing on through the Forbidden Religions book, which I really love. I do think that this is a wonderful addition to what we got in Cults of the Blood Gods and of Ash and Bone. The way that these story hooks and these cults build on to what we already have for Vampire the Masquerade, the typical, is it's so much of a more radiant view than we had when it was just the Camarilla, the Sabbat, and the Anarchs. And even in the Dark Ages, when you got into the Canaanite heresies and the Fiores and all the different ways that vampires tend to live their lives. But this being set in the modern nights, especially in a time when the Gehenna War is running rampant all over the place, it really does show what is happening and how loose of a grip the Camarilla actually has on things. Considering the fact that the majority of the elders have left the Camarilla cult, and now it's basically just the teenagers playing adults at home with the ancillae running things for the most part. It does make it quite interesting that these new cults are popping up now. Some of them are relatively new, such as the Soldiers of the Adversary cult, which I think, personally, are being manipulated by the Baali. But it is a really neat way of showing how little control over the world of darkness the people who are in control actually have. And I think that this lore sheet is a great way of putting into it, because this is not a lore sheet that is dedicated to a specific cult. This is not a lore sheet that delves into the practices of one individual group and lets you play them. This is more of an investigative role. This is more of almost like almost like a gonzo journalist with the idea of being able to infiltrate, get in there, possibly break up. You could really play with this lore sheet as an agent of the prince or of the baron and really get yourselves into those areas. Try not to be brainwashed yourself and slowly chip away at the foundations that make these Gehenna cults what they are and give them the presence of danger that they actually have. So let's go ahead and hop right into that. Investing one trait into this lore sheet gets you Mark the Bloody Trail. Once per session, when you begin investigating or researching the presence of a blood cult you're not previously used this lore for, the storyteller gives you one free clue to help locate the cult or to understand their current plans. I really do think that this point, this mark the bloody trail, it makes a lot of sense, because if you're already doing this, it means that you've most likely done it in the past and you know the signs to look for. It really brings back the idea of the cult of the Ninth Circle, or the Brotherhood of the Ninth Circle, which was located in the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines video game a few years ago, where the first things that you were looking for were the fact that there were sick homeless. There were people who were getting these diseases, and then it moves up through the ranks, and then eventually a ghoul gets sick from it, and you find out that the reason why the ghoul got sick from it is because he had hired a prostitute, and the prostitute got sick from it because she had actually been taken on as food from one of the cultists, and they were just using those people, the people who are not noticed in society, the people who are not cared for, to spread their disease to bring the end. And this right here, this lore sheet, this specific point of it, lets you know the opening signs on how to actually track down the people responsible for this, so that you can get closer to an infiltration. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you Faithful Bloodhound. You are a proven investigator. You've exposed and taken down at least one Gehenna cult already, and shown your mettle in the eyes of the sex. Either the Camarilla or Anarchs trust you as an expert on Gehenna cults. You wield 3 dots of status while taking action to investigate or persecute a cult on behalf of the sect. I really do think that this lore is more important than most people would think. The thought that status-wielding members of the society could very well be part of this cult means that you're going to have to use your status to take them down on occasion. You also might have to investigate into specific people's domains, or pursue areas where people believe that they are the ones who are the only kindred who have right to be in that place, or to interact with that type of people in that ring of society. Having those 3 points for an investigator in the idea that you're trying to stop the spread of a Gehenna cult could very well be how you're able to get through certain limitations. Investing 3 traits gets you Dogma. You're steeped in the lore of Gehenna, and you've learned many permutations of warped faiths that your fellow kindred wrap themselves in. Once per session, when you discuss a vampire's faith with them, or observe them practicing their faith, you can extrapolate a rough nature of the doctrines, convictions, or code that the religion focuses on. The storyteller does not need to give you an exact wording, but must convey the primary themes, limitations, and beliefs, even those that are not evident in what the vampire has said or done. This lore sheet lets you read a vampire. It lets you observe those subtle tics and vampiric eccentricities that most vampires just write off due to the fact that they're vampires and they do weird things. Where a lot of these things might be acceptable, there are also other things that could very well lead you to think that they are part of a cult in some fashion, such as if a vampire is never present during certain times in Elysium, or if they always have a specific item on them, or something like that. I know that if you were to find out that there's a La Sombra in the city, and La Sombra is just an example on this one, it could very well be any clan, but the thought that there might be a La Sombra who just always smells like charcoal. They always have that scent of pre-burned wood. Could very well lead you down the rabbit hole to find that they are a practicing member of the cult of Shalim, and have some specific rituals involved with that, because there are rituals in that path that display the need for those items. And that's just an example. There's plenty more out there. There's as many examples as there are vampires in each of these cults. Investing 4 traits gets you Cult Breaker. The charlatans and demagogues of millenarian cults rely on charisma and their followers' desperate need for someone else to provide answers, direction, and justification for their dark indulgences. Such self-deprecation is hard to overcome, but you know how to shatter their illusions and tear apart the foundations of their faith. Once per story for a scene, while socially interacting with you, cult members do not benefit from any dots of status they may have within their own cults. If they are unable to overcome you in a conflict, they lose any such status traits for the rest of the story, as you shake the cult's faith in them to the core. I'm pretty sure that this is the one trait in this lore sheet that I have a hard time grasping the use for, primarily because it shows that you would have to have severe, deep infiltration in this one. You would actually have to become part of the cult. And where I don't see that as being completely useless, if you are specialized in getting into the cult and tearing it down from the inside, yes, I can very much see how important this would be and how useful this would be, because you could actually climb the ladder of this cult, slowly bringing them down, shaking the foundations until you are able to use this lore on the leader of the cult, taking away their status, making it so that the people don't believe in them anymore, and they possibly just leave the cult. This could be the long game. So I guess I really can't say what I was saying when we first started on this. As I've talked it out, as I've externally processed the information, it does actually come in handy when you're talking about taking down the bigger picture. But you have one scene per story to do this in. Investing 5 traits into this lore sheet gets you Red Truth. Investigating the rising tide of blood cults and Gehenna worshippers has put you in a prime position to sift a few precious grains of truth from the bloated clot of lies that sits at the heart of most of these misbegotten faiths. Whether you want to believe it or not, you can't deny the evidence you've gathered, and why not exploit it for yourself, rather than leaving it in the blood-stained hands of frothing zealots. Once you have studied the practices or texts of any blood cult, you are able to learn any ritual or other useful supernatural capabilities they possess without need of a teacher, although you must pay any experience point cost as normal. As somebody who enjoys playing academics in games, lorehounds, this is probably my favorite point on a lore sheet, and it could very well be my favorite point in any lore sheet that we have covered thus far, because oh my god, the ability that this grants you. You don't necessarily believe in the practice, so you don't have the faith in it, but you do have the mechanics, and you cannot say that these things don't work, because you've seen them work. You've seen them work. And even if you don't believe that such and such ancient blood god is going to rise on the full moon of the 14th month on the 15th hour during the, I don't know, just there's so many things. But the fact that you can actually just read through the books and go, I want to do that. I want to use this. Not only is this a great tool, because now when you infiltrate, you already have the rituals. You can walk into the cult and go, yeah, I'm here. Look, I can do this. Yeah, you can do that, but also you can do that, which means any benefit that you get from being a part of this cult, even a high-standing member of this cult, if you get the lore, if you get a hold of their holy tomes and are able to pull it together, you can create your own arsenal that's going to help you out through so many different problems without even needing to have the actual like belief in it. That is so broken and so worth the 5 points. And I have to highly suggest that any storyteller out there, when this one comes out there, please just make sure that you're policing this. Oh my god. Now obviously you're not going to be able to come across a new blood cult tomb every night. That's just not going to happen. And XP is XP. It's going to take you a while to get it. But the option is there. And it might take some time, but you're playing a vampire. Take the time. If you're going to buy this lore sheet, take the time. This lore sheet, the Gehenna Cults lore sheet, as I said before, it does not focus on any specific cult. It focuses on your ability to investigate and possibly even destroy those cults from the inside. I want to play in a game where I get to take this. I really do. This is exactly the kind of lore sheet that if I was playing my old Zemitzi Marcus, I would take. Specifically that level 5. Because being able to study and learn the special gifts, talents, and rituals of those ceremonies, of those cults, is right up his alley. That's exactly the kind of thing that he would end up doing. Because he loves to tear down the establishment. He's not an anarch. He never was an anarch. But he is such an anarch at heart. He loves to just destroy things from the inside that he finds ridiculous. I am Voivode Maquette. This is our World of Darkness, and we've just taken a look at the Gehenna Cults lore sheet that's located in the Forbidden Religions book, brought to us by World of Darkness. If anybody has anything to say on this, I would love to hear about it, and I will see you next time in the next video. Good evening.